Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm Lou Thomas and thanks for stopping on my channel, Highest Gear Reviews. So as I said, some more upgrades and improvements to the C8 Corvette here. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about Hubcentric wheel spacers. So these are pretty popular. You guys have probably seen them before. They just change the offset of the wheel a little bit, push it out a little bit further to make it a little bit flusher on the fenders. So as you can see, my car does have custom rims on it that don't require the spacers because I already changed the offset when I ordered the wheels. But when we put the stock wheels back on, which I'm going to do for the winter time, I'm going to put the spacers on, just kind of flush it up a little bit. So we're going to talk about Hubcentric wheel spacers. As I said, these custom wheels I got, I did change the offset on them. I pushed them out a little bit further from where they would be as far as the stock wheels. And I really like the way it sits. It's like perfectly flush in my opinion. I did lower this car as well, and I got another video you can watch as far as when I lowered it. Then in the back, same kind of thing. It's nice and flush as far as right to the fender line, and I think it looks really good. So we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to kind of show you what the stock wheels look like without the wheel spacers on there, and then we'll kind of go through what it looks like with the wheel spacers on, and I'll also put on my other set of tires and rims, which are my race tires that I use for the track days. So that's kind of what it's going to look like. That's something you're going to see. They're going to be obviously the silver stock wheels, and let's get on to it. So here what I'm showing you is what the stock wheels look like without the fender, without the hub spacers. So as you can see, it goes in quite a ways. It's about, 3/4 of an inch in or so. So about 20 millimeters. I'm just going to push it out flush. It is exaggerated a little bit because of my mud flaps that I have on this car. But as you can see, front and rear, it's tucked in too tight, too far into the center line of the car, which I don't really like. I want it to be nice and flush. So that's what it looks like before we put the spacers on. So let's go through what exactly is a Hubcentric spacer. Now there's two types you can buy. Like I said, this is a Hubcentric. There's also a Lugcentric as well. On the C8 Corvette, we're going to use Hubcentric. That's what the factory uses basically. As far as what it is the wheel is almost like the center of the wheel kind of goes onto this section here and kind of rides on this section here, which keeps it in balance and stops vibration, all that kind of stuff. And of course the lugs obviously cinch it into the actual rotor on the car. These holes here are where the bolts are going to pass through, so the stock bolts are going to pass through here. We're going to tighten them up with these lug nuts here. When we do this, we're not going to use an impact gun, at least as far as snugging them up. You can impact them on just to get into contact, but then torque them on, okay? And we'll go through the torque specs in a minute. So the stock lug will poke through here. The attachment lug nut will go on. It'll kind of recess into this section here. There'll be a little bit poking out, but that's okay because the wheels have a back form, which this kind of goes into on the back spacing of the wheel, and I'll show you that as well. And then this will be poking through the stock wheel, and now our lug nuts go onto here. So as far as the various types, there's companies that sell these things for, a couple $100 for all four of them. In my opinion, that's a waste of money. They're all pretty much the same thing. They're kind of all made by very similar companies, obviously, and just rebranded for different people's companies. But what you're looking for is you want them obviously to be like a T6 aluminum, which is what this is, T6 billet aluminum. These are carbon steel bolts right here. I think they're a grade 10.9, 14.5 pitch, which is 14 1.5 pitch on them, which is what the factory pitch as far as the lug nuts is going to be. These are 5 by 120 millimeter as far as the lug spacing and all that kind of stuff, as far as the spacing on them. And the actual thickness of them is going to be 20 millimeters. So we're going to check that real quick just to make sure. So we got our micrometer here. And let's take a look, see here. Yep, there we go, 20. So let me show you real quick. Let me zero it out again. So we're going to put it on, and we're just going to check the thickness, and 20 millimeters on the nose. So as far as tools we're going to use for today's project, aside from obviously your jack and jack stands, please don't forget that jack stand, we're obviously going to be kind of a breaker bar for your socket just to break those lug nuts loose. Don't use your torque wrench to do that. It kind of damages the torque wrench as far as the calibration on it. Obviously, if you have the locking lug nuts, grab that. Socket for those. I like to use a little stubby extension as well. And of course my torque wrench. And as far as on these Coyote ones, I think the the bolts that come with it, or the nuts that come with it to hold the adapter to the rotor. I think that's about a 3/4 inch socket. So we're going to try with that. And let's get going. So the first one we're going to do is break the torque on the lug nuts themselves. So don't forget, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Install. Just break them loose. And obviously, if you're going to be retorquing them back on, make sure you use a cross pattern, you know, opposing each other. But we're just going to loosen these up right now, just so we can actually get our impact on and just pop them off real quick. So loosen them all up all the way around the car, or the side that you're working on, while the car's on the ground, make it a little bit easier, and then we'll pop this wheel off. So car's up in the air. I did kind of work, I could just use kind of one jack stand in the back. Make sure I put my jack stand, my jack under there. Lift up the front of the car as well, as far as what I want to do for today. Completely up to you if you want to do it. I'd recommend that you use two, but these things work as well. So I'm going to pop these off. Make sure the surface is nice and clean. Everything looks good on here and everything. And just kind of do a test fitment. Make sure it's good, nice and flush. Everything looks good on there. The other thing you're going to want to do is a little bit of thread lock on these ones here. Okay, so these are the inner ones, or the smaller ones, which is going to attach the spacer to the hub or to the rotor. So I'm going to do a little bit of thread lock on there. And we're going to use the blue thread lock, or semi-permanent. Don't use the permanent thread lock, okay? Otherwise you have a hard time getting your lug nuts off. You probably have to use a torch or something to get them off. So just a little bit of a semi-permanent. Put that on all of them. And then we're going to install the wheel spacer and see what it looks like. All right, folks, so a couple of things here. So these little holes, these are kind of the pockets where this part of the lug nut goes inside. So it kind of recesses in there, so you can get that flush mount on the wheel itself. Another thing is I did increase the torque. I went up to the 140 pounds on the torque to hold these ones onto the hub. And I'm thinking that's probably going to be better because that's what the stock wheels use. So anyway, that's what it looks like, and we'll throw the wheels on. So here's something that I wasn't expecting. What's happening here is on the wheels, this little lug here is contacting a little bit on that pocket on the wheels on each of these studs. So what we're going to have to do is just grind this down just a little bit where it's contacting. If you can see, this kind of mark in here, and it's just barely hitting in there. So I wasn't expecting that, like I said, and it's doing that on all of them, as you can see with those little marks. So like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to take our file, and we're just going to kind of grind down this little section right here. So it's just that very tip part there, so it should only take a couple of seconds on each one. And you're just going to kind of grind it down, kind of that smooth spot on there. And as you can see, it's really not affecting the thread at all any, and doesn't make a difference because the thread's going to be covered up anyway when you get it on there. But anyway, so you're going to have to do that, which is a little bit unexpected on each one of those. And I guess if you have like a little Dremel or something, you could probably use a Dremel, just kind of thin that down a little bit, just so it sits in that little cup. All right, so here we have it now. If you can see, I kind of ground down those a little section right there. So it's real small, just a little grind on there. And on each one of these are ground down. And that should get it into that little pocket on the wheels. If you're wondering what the screwdriver is in there, I use that as just a little tip, so that way I can put the torque on here with holding onto the rotor. So all I'm doing is sliding it in. It goes into the slots basically up here, just through the brake. So when you put the torque on it, you can put the torque on those lugs. All right, folks, so here we have it. These are the wheel spacers are installed. So as you can see, quite a different wheel gap, right? So I think it looks damn near right around perfect, exactly kind of where I want it. So there you go, 20mm wheel spacers for the C8 Corvette installed. Hey, do me a favor, hit subscribe, come on back, and we'll do some more modifications to our C8 Corvette. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.